name, their this, their that, And now privacy policy now comes into what to protect those customers, those clients, from the business, misusing the information they've gotten from them, right? So every detail they get from them are to be used in their favor, are to be used to improve on their own services, how they render the services to a customer. So once a customer drops its details in form of data and everything, it's for the business to actually respect the right of the customer or the client in using the data in the right way, and not actually disclosing it to third parties without the consent of the customer or client. I hope you get this. So let's move on to legal frameworks generally. Before now I actually mentioned something about law and the fact that policies, basic business policies, most of them get their source from some of these laws, right? So now we'll be starting with the basic, which is the first one. What comes to your mind? I'm sure it's the Constitution, right? The Nigerian Constitution, 1999. Now, before any other law, came on board, the 1999 Constitution actually set the pace for protection of privacy, right? Privacy of persons with regards to their own correspondence, telegraphic communication, every form of communication. So, and this right is actually protected in such that where there is a breach of this right, you can institute an action in court, for the breach, right? So, the ground norm, being the Constitution of Nigeria, actually set the pace for, protection of privacy. It's from this law that other laws flow, right? It's more or less like the source of other laws that come. So, other laws that came, we'll be looking at some of those, few of them. There are many, right? We're looking at a few of them in no particular order. And one we have also is the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation, NDPR 2019. So it was issued by NITDA, National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, in 2019. Now, this regulation is particularly considered to be, should I say, the the grandest of all other laws that look at, that considers data protection, that is personal information of customers. So there are other laws, but then it is considered to be the one that covers the scope. It's it covers everything you need to know, penalties that you might face where the business fails to protect the privacy, protect the data of their customers or clients, all the necessary details you need to know. It covers everything, right? We also have the NCC Consumer Code of Practice Regulation 2007. By NCC, we're saying the Nigerian Communications Commission. So the code for protection. So of course, this has to do with the telecommunications sector, right? So, and of course, that when we talk about the telecommunications sector, we're talking about the sector that, in basic terms, we're talking about the MTN, we're talking about the Airtel, we're talking about the 9Mobile, and we know that once you're registered, we all have SIMs, we all make calls. So at the point of doing your registration, you put in your details, your name, your Ds, next of kin, and all those things. All those details are meant to be protected, and even beyond that, your conversations on call, right? It has to be protected. It cannot be disclosed to third parties. Whatever it is you have, whatever conversation, whatever form of communication you have over your network has to be protected, by the telecommunications sector. So they don't have the right to actually go ahead, just share details. Although there are exceptions to this, there are exceptions to this, right? So it's not absolute. So we'll be looking at some of those exceptions later on. So in general, generally speaking, telecommunications sector, they are bound under this regulation to protect, the privacy of their subscribers. I hope you get this as well. So now moving on, we'll be looking at the freedom of information. So this one particularly affects public institutions. So for details given, you cannot, everything is still towards the same line actually. Protection of personal information of customers, of clients, of consumers, all and all like that. So we also have the National Health Act, the National Health Act. So this one particularly applies to health practitioners, medical practitioners, those that attend to the health of people. So we understand that, for those that go to the hospital regularly, because I don't, I think most of the time you give certain details, right? So these details are recorded. So these details you've given cannot be used against you, cannot be used in such a way that it negatively affects you. So the hospital or whatever, they have the right, they have the duty, to look after your right to privacy by not sharing your details or your data just with anyone without your permission. And of course, we know that this is also subject to exceptions, right? So now we'll be looking at exceptions. Yeah, jumping on to the exceptions. Now, exceptions to the whole right to privacy. Of course, there's this thing we say in law that to every general rule there's an exception. So for exception, one is national security, and of course, this one says so much. Where there is a situation of, okay, let me actually give you a practical example. In the legal space, there's this thing about, of course, clients coming in and meeting a legal practitioner that, oh, I have this issue. Then they talk at length. They give certain details, some details that are not even known to those closest to them. They give those details. They just give out this information. So now there's a law that guides legal practitioners and how we deal with our clients. That details given like that, there is a confidentiality. It is presumed. It is in the law. There's a we call it the RPC, Rules of Professional Conduct. It guides this. So the whatever information that your client gives you, you cannot go ahead and discuss it with your spouse, or discuss it with your friend, or discuss it with anybody. It is between the two of you, and it is between the two. It is within the firm, so it doesn't go out of the firm. So so relating this to national security, let's say, for example, a kind of communication you had with a client is such that to presume that a crime is about to be committed, which could affect the national integrity of the state, like Nigeria, right? So subject to the rule that you should not disclose, you may as well disclose this one, because this one has to do with the national. So and moreover, outside the legal space, there could be the need a foreign agent, not even a foreign agency, a national agency in Nigeria can approach you for certain details, for certain data on a certain person they've suspected to have done something. Right, so this rule of privacy does not really protect the person at this point. So at this point, the exception now, flows. The exception happens because, subject to the general rule, they can, looking at the situation at hand, which is national security, right? So based on this, they can actually get this data. They can get this information that they actually need, to actually further the course of probably investigation or whatsoever. So it will not suffice to say that, oh, my right to privacy is this or that. Yes, you have the right, but then there are exceptions. So another one is consumers' consent. So in the course of wanting to use the customer or consumer's data, you can reach out to the consumer and be like, okay, we want to use your data for this, we want to use your data for that, right? So if the consumer consents, then it's fine. You can go ahead and use it. That's like a very obvious, exception in this case. We also have publicly available information. So information that is already, available to the public. Nothing is violated, even though it's with you and then you choose to disclose it. It's more or less like you're not even disclosing anything. It's readily in the public eye already. So we also have the court order. So in a situation where a court grants an order that certain things be disclosed, for example, bank details, I think this one, based on experience, little things I've read in the past, that mainly deals with, like, okay, let's say bank issues, and then the court orders that they should get certain details from the bank. Ordinarily, the bank should not, release certain, data, certain information about this person, being their customer, right? But once the court gives the order, it's for the bank to actually respond by giving those details that are supposed to be, they're supposed to be private between both. So now I think the main thing here today is just to understand that although we know that there are industries that require privacy, right to privacy in terms of, like, data privacy and all those things, data protection, there are industries that require that you actually create something, a policy that revolves around privacy, the right to privacy. And we also understand that some industry might not really require that. We have the medical space, we know that they require this, and other telecommunication and all those other spaces, we know they require some of these things. But some other industries might not actually really require it. But then, in marketing, in customer retention, that actually at the minimal level, you should at least have something that shows that you care for your customers. Because I do say this, and I believe it. People say this a lot. Is the fact that in your business you are coming to serve customers. You're not coming to serve yourself, right? There are customers coming from far and wide, coming to to receive your services, and they need to feel safe. They need to feel that they are protected. So in a situation where you're trying to market and all those things, one of the things that keep your customer closer to you is the fact that you have a privacy policy, a policy that ensures that their data, whatever it is they give to you, is not misused, it's not mismanaged, it's not just given to third parties and all that without their consent, of course subject to exceptions, right? So it is very necessary to understand that despite the fact that some industries do not require it, it's business, being business wise, actually you should know that you should actually have something in place to actually protect your your consumers, your clients, your customers. Now on the other hand, for industries that actually require this, it is wise for you to actually adhere to it, because it comes with consequences. Of course, we know where there are rules and then there is a breach, it would ordinarily come with consequences, and one which is fine, right? It can be fined, your business can be fined, and usually in extreme circumstances we could have situations such as suspension of your license, of your business license, right? So for example, you're in the telecommunication sector or industry and you breach this, your license could be withdrawn temporarily, or you could be fined. That's just the way it is. So the whole essence of this today is to make you understand that the right to privacy, privacy policy, it's necessary in business, whether or not it is required or not. If it's not required in your industry, is for you to actually take a step further by showing your customers that what, we care about your privacy, and we won't say because there's no one regulation that actually governs the way we deal with the data we get from you, the personal information we get from you, and then we will not just do anything about it. We need to show our customers that we actually care, right? So I think that is one takeaway, and that is a major takeaway from this. And of course, if you actually have an industry, you belong to an industry that requires it, why not do it? It helps you better serve your customers. At the end of the day, you benefit, the customers benefit as well. So this is just one of those policies that we'll be looking at in the course of the following subsequent weeks from now. So today we've looked at privacy policy. It could be credit policy, it could be employees, policy, how you employ, compensation, it could be any of it. So look forward to that. We'll be bringing you that in the coming weeks from now, and we hope you actually benefit from this. Please stay tuned, and you might see some of our videos which we've done. We encourage you to actually go through some of those things, because we believe you will find it quite informative, right? So I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for staying tuned. I'm Daniel Olukayode Adeyemo. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.